Azir nerfed for the longest time and received some minor tweaks, but still considered quite weak and out of the meta. I think first Azir pick in Europe for sure in Spring. But this is definitely, they want to set up as a 4-man unit, and then definitely siege these turrets. That's what they want to do. The poke from soldiers and the poke from Varus is so hard to deal with, especially if you have Ivern, Karma, Shen, Pia. Look at that unit right there.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of the Emperor's Divide get nerfed. A lot of the things that make Azir so strong get taken away from the kit, and Ivern will kind of balance out a lot of his takeaways. No longer you're going to be entirely reliant on the shield, because Daisy's a brand new shield for you. You can just kind of shut down those attempts to get into the back line, and I feel like now that we see the composition, how it's unfolded for G2, now that we know where all the flex picks are going, it looks strong in terms of raw power, but I'm not exactly sure what to expect in terms of how it's going to function.
Yeah, and I wonder if G2 is still going to play their traditional slow style they have been adopting the last few weeks, where they really focus on objective control and not really going too deep for kills, when they're playing quite a few snowball champions and quite an aggressive comp with like the Rumble jungle in the early game rather, and then the Camille in the top lane.
Of course, you can head on over to Twitter. Let us know which composition you think is stronger. There's a lot of fresh picks here at LOL Esports. Hashtag G2win or hashtag H2K win. Is it the old school OP Azir now coming back onto the Rift? A lot less OP than he once was. Or is it going to be Camille? Brand new flavor. We perma-ban her in Solar Q. Yep. She makes it through somehow in competitive.
But more than that, which of these is going to show up, you know? Which perks? Is it spring perks or summer perks? And then which Febiven? Is it 2015 Febiven, well, 2016? Like
even in 2016, some of Febiven's Azir games were super clean. Like had one or two moments. For the most part, it was a rough season for him, but interesting to see him kind of go back. Is this a comfort pick, or is this kind of new innovation?
I mean, it's an old pick that he's used to playing. It is a good matchup into the Orianna. Definitely control that lane very well with the soldiers. Oh, look at this.
You can see it.
It's beautiful. He's trying to burn the forest.
Look at him.
That is like a hazard right there. Forest fire.
I mean, this is like the thematic counter pick to Ivern, right? Fire versus tree.
Yep. How do you, like, yeah? How do you beat
Fire versus candy, on the other hand, not
so great.
Not what I necessarily think.
I don't know. I wasn't really playing with fire that much when I was a kid that I was trying to light up my candies.
What?
Look, there were issues.
Look, man, we get bored. You get bored when you're a kid. Fourth of July in America, there's a lot of fireworks. You light stuff on fire.
There's candy everywhere. This is the States.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much figured out the American upbringing in like, I don't know, 3 words.
I went through the entire upbringing when I was around 22. I had my phase of American upbringing. Let's see at these lanes right now. So there's a ward being placed on the red buff. So there's knowledge from H2K where G2 is starting. That's going to be important because Jankos obviously doesn't want to get counter jungled on second buff like we saw in the first series.
Oh, Zven getting stunned up. That's going to be a huge advantage.
That's sexy.
He's super aggressive. Thunderlord's proc as well. Exhaust already burned. That's a massive advantage.
That's some quality cheese right here. I'm loving it. So what will he lose? What is expect losing? We need to look at the top lane. How is Odoamne punishing that? Doesn't look like a single creep is being lost here for expect in the top lane. That would be really nice. Yeah, he ran top and he got all the experience right here as we're focused on bot lane.
Missed one creep of gold, it looks like, but that is nothing to blow a summoner spell on the opposite side to take advantage in the mid lane.
And more importantly, it swings the push in terms of in favor of PerkZ, who now has much more control early on.
Already seeing good starts coming out. Now we noted the early jungle vision. For now, it seems like both junglers are on pace to clear their jungler early. Exhaust taken off the table, not as important in Flash, however, so Febiven should be safe for now.
Yeah, Jankos doing the typical start here. The fast clear Ivern start. He's basically charging up his Grump and his Wolves right now, for which he will return. But he's first going to smite. Krugs usually? No, this is a different route. Yeah, so he's just going to prep them, go back, finish his camps, then return topside, and then he can help Odoamne.
Really want to shut down that Camille early. We've seen that strategy be so effective. It was in the hands of Cabo Shard. H2K have let it through before, and we're able to shut it down with a comp very similar to this. So can expect outperform here, or can G2 set him up for success?
Yeah, Odoamne did get leeway here in terms of the lane push. He was never contested early, so he could stack that wave up, comfortably farm. It does mean that Expect does voluntarily put himself a tiny bit behind for his team. He doesn't miss experience, but obviously having no influence in the early lane when you're such a strong trader as a Camille will have a cost.
Jankos now heading down to the bottom side. Maybe this is going to be the first gank. We did not
first
expect.
gank from Ivern, walking in, swagging style.
Is he gonna land it, Mithy?
He's not.
Nice heal, makes it out alive.
Yep, Mithy not sidestepping, just keeps on walking straight. The most annoying thing to do versus a good jungler is just walking straight. No jukes.
The next level mind games. Well, not a whole lot burned. Heal, of course, taken off the board once again. Small advantages traded back and forth, but only 4 minutes in, and nothing major for either team quite yet. Incredible. The thing that's interesting to me, Expect, kind of the guy, if we have to find a weakness on the G2 lineup, it is Expect, and yet he's been given so much power in the hands on this carry. It feels like a huge shift. And I have to hold that thought, though, because aggression at the bottom lane.
Yeah, really good flash from Nuclear. Just respecting the fact that if he doesn't flash instantly, he'll probably have to use it later on anyways, and that means he can preserve momentum. They had a really great ward. It was a good punish from Mithy, but H2K bot lane definitely knows how to play safe.
Good to see, of course. Have to respect Sven and Mithy. Haven't quite seen the same aggressive look from them that we saw in seasons past, but still a lane that can absolutely destroy you if you overstep, if you make aggressive moves. Now we see the trade moving on the top side of the map. Odoamne continuing to keep the push in his favor. The Spirit's Refuge stopping the trades back from Expect.
Yeah, but Odo's dropping a little lower. He definitely wants that wave in the turret so he can reset and get to base and just pick up some more base armor to really fight that Camille later on. Obviously, the more minions stacked, the easier it is for him to trade if Camille ever goes in, but it must be feel a little dangerous pushing that close. It's a really annoying spot because if you get ganked, it's a long lane that people can chase you in.
Absolutely. And Camille, of course, very effective at chasing you down. Has the tactical sweep for the slow, has the wall dive and the hook shot to really lock you up as well. So very easy for Rumble with all that damage to kind of just show up and shut you down.
Yeah, and obviously blast stones make it so annoying to play against because you just have to respect distance much more. And Rumble has been hiding in the jungle for quite a while, so Odoamne has no reassurance that Rumble couldn't be there in his face right now.
Very true. Of course, Trick's still behind in levels. Jankos the power clear route, giving him an EXP lead for now. But level 6 going to be major for both junglers here. Important for both top laners as well. Jankos gets the vision down. They now see Trick.
It's good cover. Good cover from Jankos. Really just wants to be annoying and make sure that his top laner is covered in terms of push. So that wave can finally reset. Because H2K is also approaching level 6. We need to see if G2 eSports on next base is going to mimic what a lot of teams do, which is push out and base and then roam on the Shen. Play towards the Shen to avoid that bot lane party that you're so desperately do not want to happen.
They cannot afford to match globals there. Even Expect is this powerhouse duelist. You just do not have the tools to compete with Shen's map mobility. And right now, it looks like they're content to continue mashing on the bottom side. Odoamne has hit 6.
And they already squeezed in the base in earlier. That's something Zven loves doing a lot recently. Just these really quick, efficient early bases where you finish Dirk and maybe an extra longsword. Invest in early power, so you get at least an 80 disparity versus a laner like Varus who goes tier. If you can get a big gap versus the tier, that's always what you want, right? So you disincentivize him from trading one-on-one on you. Over time, he can outpoke you, but in the raw trade power, you obviously win out.
And not letting that poke in online quite yet. Of course, one of the few perks of laning against Varus is he does put himself in the deficit with that tier of the Goddess, and Sven more than happy to take advantage of it for now. But right now, him and Mithy set themselves up to be on the back foot. Of course, Nautilus, the melee support, not really going to have the potential to get, insanely aggressive here without the support of a jungler.
Yeah, teleports are down, obviously, on Odoamne. He can still use that Stand United. Need to see, what is the plan here for H2K? Both teams taking it slow, kind of matching, but there's a lot more information being traded right now. Second phase of the game, look at these deports right here. Good spot from the observers. We also see the potential in this Azir pick. How do you bring back a weaker pick? Well, you need to help it. If there's one jungler that can bring back a weaker pick, it is Ivern, because you give your mid laner access to double buffs continuously from 5 minutes onwards.
Interesting pick as well, because so often the answer to Azir was having these champions that could jump into the backline, and they have the Camille now, but it's not going to work for the Ivern, and it may work on the Nautilus, though, as Ivern does decide to go in. Mithy will get knocked up. Third auto comes out. Daisy continuing to go down under the tower, but all is fine for G2 for now. Yeah,
both these teams are reading each other very well in terms of where the next play is going to be, so they end up neutralizing every single gank attempt. No trick.
Safe for now. Root Caller connects, but no follow-up coming in quite yet. Still waiting on level 6 on the side of H2K. Nuclear, no ability to throw out that ultimate to lock down the opposition.
Yeah, but this pickup from the Shen is working wonders so far for H2K. The little cheese in the early game hasn't really netted in too much of an advantage for G2. There is a CS advantage, though, on PerkZ, who was technically counterpicked, so that was the benefit, but the cost is that the Shen is completely even with Camille 8.5 minutes in, so I don't think that should happen either.
Not at all where they wanted to be. Expect opting for the Sheen itemization. We've heard Cabo talk about how strong this item is. Syncs up with the Q, the precision protocol for perfect damage output. But while top lane trading for now is going even, bottom lane very much in favor of G2, at least in terms of push pressure.
Yeah, it's the classic siege that you want to do with Ivern. You just group with your pushing, poking bot lane. You get use of the root card, the shields, and you really just want to be annoying. And the second trick matches, you don't stay. Because you lose in dueling prowess, especially when Daisy's down. So the second somebody matches, you leave. Go be annoying somewhere else. That is Ivern's play pattern right now, but they still chip down the turret, half HP, which means if Jankos can ever return and Trick's not there, they can dive with Odoamne.
Spec continues to trade on the top side. Moving forward, no ultimate use coming out quite yet. So top lane remains even while bot lane slowly gets chipped, and it feels like these small incremental advantages that have been the story of the game so far will eventually go to H2K if they can just keep chipping away at the tower, finding these small skirmishes, finding these small advantages.
Yeah, but obviously there's still scaling on G2. I don't think we can decisively call where it's going to go just yet. Hang on, good sidestep for Nuclear. Mithy might have to be careful here. Nuclear electing to hold his ultimate there. I feel he's almost respecting potential gank, because if you just ulti the Nautilus right there, you just force him to blow his summoners.
I mean, there's just an absurd amount of damage between the Jhin, the Rumble, the potential setup if you get locked down in the Rumble ult. Once again, we called the H2K bottom lane kind of cautious, more able to play safe.
I mean, I can respect that. I don't think it's a mistake, but it just speaks to kind of the nature of a player that Nuclear is. A lot of players would just pull the trigger. It's like, okay, support used his main CC ability. He can't gap close me anymore. He can't even hit me to set up for Jhin W. Well, I can just ulti him, poke him down, force him to flash. But that puts you at risk of a potential lane gank from Rumble.
Mithy not holding on to the flash, maybe waiting for the ultimate to come out for us before he commits the summoner spell, and is now steadily getting closer to level 6, which may be the big breaking point in this lane. The depth charge, of course, massive spike in power, whereas Karma doesn't get anything from that level 6.
Nautilus versus Karma, especially when you're playing Ignite Nautilus, level 6 super important. Might see some action. Luckily for H2K side, there is the Shen that can always absorb the first all-in. But we can also talk a little bit about something we brought up in the pregame, which is what kind of styles these teams have been experimenting with, especially on the side of G2. We've seen them slow down a lot. And I've actually been speaking to quite a few members from G2, notably Mithy, on this, and asking them, why are you not going for these trades right here? Showing him just footage of the game. It's like, you know what? We could go for a massive lane read right here, but it involves a little risky play. Instead, we're trying to play a very clean game, focused on objectives, and if we get lane leads, they want to use lane leads to get a team lead. Whereas previously, they would use lane leads to get even more lane leads and then just kind of snowball on their opponents. G2 right now, they want to become more refined, and everything is in goal of the team. So they want to play very objective-focused and team-oriented gameplay, which obviously means you play a little bit more secure and a little bit more passive in the early game.
Maybe looking towards the future, wanting to be, you know, a better team than just the best team in Europe, looking to compete at an international level as it has vexed them so much in the past.
And that's where the whole theory from that game style comes from, is that because on the international stage, you will not be able to generate any lane leads versus these players. Like, you can't expect to kill Bang and Wolf in lane to get your lane lead and then translate that into a map lead, right? The way you need to beat these teams is with smart lane assignments, win your wave control, and then eventually try and get the objectives.
But to not take objectives, I mean, not to take trades that would give you an advantage, to not take those advantages doesn't, I mean, is that even a reliable strategy?
They're not sandbagging, so that's maybe like phrasing it wrong. There's always an implied risk in an all-in. If you have a 70% play, sure, if you're a struggling team, you should take that. 70% odds is good. If you're G2, and you know, if you play consistently slow and you have a 90% chance of winning, why would you take a 70% play? It's more of that rationale that goes to it. Obviously, versus H2K, it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, because Expect's getting taken down. Flash forward, first blood for Odoamne. I didn't even expect to see it. I thought for sure there's no way it would happen, but Odo knows this matchup like the back of the hand and is so quick to punish Expect.
What a cornerstone for H2K. Odoamne comes out. Honestly, wins the war of attrition. This was not a flashy kill out of nowhere where he gets taunted on a turret. This is simply just laning prowess from Odoamne, willing to leave the Camille open, give it to G2's weakest player, and he starts winning. And that begs the question that she's level 1. Was it worth it for Expect to swing that lane in the early game if he's going to end up dying 1v1 to Odoamne?
And was that even the deciding moment, or would have Odo found that advantage anyways? Expect just maybe a bigger weak point than G2 had expected, because now that Camille's behind, there goes the 1v1 potential for at least another couple minutes until she completes some major items.
Yeah. And G2 definitely running a 4-1 comp. Yes, you could put Orianna on a side lane, but she's not a side lane split pusher, especially not with Kled's flash. So This will hurt G2's mid-game plan very hard. So this is the point to strike if you're H2K. You already want to target the weakest member, but you most definitely want to do so in a pick where it guarantees you silent control later on. If you snowball, Camille will still win the silent control later on.
Absolutely.
Because Camille is a fun champion.
Yeah, very fun. Lots of jumps, lots of damage. Lots of damage. Of course, expect fine for now. Trick there to back him up. G2 realizing that they may need to give a little extra help on the top side.
Yeah, but no rotations coming out. No bot lane swings to top lane here. H2K sieging again. And look, Odoamne is ready with Stand United. He now hit level 11. Even bigger shield comes out. You saw the pings go out from H2K. They're setting up the pathway vision in the enemy jungle as well. Febiven was considering roaming down to the bot lane and forcing kind of the turret siege right there.
Now moving forward, Febiven very comfortable in this laning phase. Of course, both these champions very strong in late game scenarios. But for now, Febiven starting to come out on top in terms of these trades. Already has the Nashor's Tooth, working on a second item as well.
And this is one of the few games where Febiven is falling behind, because in terms of CSD at 10, which is CS differential, he's been the best one so far. Really, I think he had a 7 or 8 CSD at 10, which means he was far above the second one, just farming really well and putting pressure in his lane. PerkZ was quite average, around 2 or 3 CS up on average, but the fact that PerkZ is snowballing this hard, well, snowballing. The fact that PerkZ has a CS lead over Febiven kind of bucks that trend, especially since H2K had the later pick.
Interesting that H2K gave so much up for this, but we're going to have to hold that because Mithy getting engaged on Snare goes in. Unfortunately, the ult goes wide from Nuclear, and that means H2K, while looking to press that advantage like we wanted to see, are not able to find the opening.
Continuously showing up in his bot lane here for Jankos. The first brush been pink warded to make sure that he can just kind of slide into that lane. They really want to surprise, and then now they can leverage the push because they can't get to the turret. H2K considering Dragon, but then backing off again. A lot of tension in this game.
Oh, Odoamne goes in, has the true damage, wall dive, hook shot comes back out. Don't know if he's going to find the 1v1 because Spirit's Refuge just blocks so much of that damage, and bonus from Ivern. Red buff for the Shen top lane, just making it so much harder.
Yeah, and if you can make these fights last really long, you can definitely make use of the Sunfire Cape here. But right now, Trick's coming.
Going in. Odo baited into the 1v1. He wanted it one more time, but Trick there to break up the duel to make the advantage for G2.
Yeah, really good opening. Odoamne a little bit overzealous right there. Gets put in the barbecue. No escape whatsoever. H2K now looking to race to get at least first turret gold. They have a lead, so they should be able to get it here.
Finally breaking the bot lane open will net them a small gold advantage for now, but G2 are going to swing it right back with a tower of their own.
And this is both drafts kind of working as expected. Barring the minor misstep that Expect made earlier, this lane is expected to win in top lane, especially with the gank. And obviously, Varus and Karma are expected to push in the bot lane, so nothing really strange has happened so far in this game.
Nothing insane either. Of course, we can see H2K, they got first tower. Now they're on their way to get first dragon. And we've seen very clean early games coming out from them in the most part. Of course, they're giving up a little here against G2, but still coming out relatively even overall.
The only game up to this point where H2K have given up the first turret is a game where they were forced to start Arcane Shift on Ezreal in a bad matchup already, and they got pushed in by Vitality. Vitality punished them. But other than that, their early game objective control has been very impressive. And that's exactly the style that G2 has been willing to play lately, so it's going to be very interesting how this evolves. This kind of low kill pressure environment where people are just really tunneling on objectives.
See, we just came off of a series where everyone was dying constantly. I think we saw, you know, it's going to take it like 3 hours to get the amount of kills at this rate that it took from a single games of Unicorns of Love. I mean, it's admirable, of course, to see both teams play so cleanly, to look just for the guaranteed openings, to not look for those 50-50 plays or take any kind of risks.
And every objective has been cleaned off the bottom side of the map here for H2K, but they still sent their bot lane here. Just putting up the vision. Chei doing it as careful as he can. Obviously doesn't have his jungler around right here.
Camille. Of course, have to respect it. Has a lot of kill pressure on anyone if they're left alone. Maybe not on the Shen in a 1v1 situation, unless you buy enough time for Rumble to make his way up there. But otherwise, looking pretty strong overall.
Yeah, but you got to be careful if you're G2 eSports. You can't make a play on the bottom side of the map because the Shen can teleport, and Jhin obviously does not have a teleport. That would be a very unfortunate 4v5. Now Zven roaming to mid lane here. And they're kind of struggling because nobody really wants to play on the side lane. If you're in the mid game right now and you're G2, you'd rather be mid with your AD carry. That is a traditional spot for Jhin to play, and he's so good at it. It's still okay for him to be at the side lane because it's relatively early on, but later on, you'll see them group mid more often. G2 is actually the team that picks up the most farm from 15 minutes to 30 on the map, so they really make use of all these 3 lanes, but with this composition, it'll be a lot harder for them to do that efficiently. They may start losing side lane CS because of their composition.
I mean, we do see so many picks to support that as well for PerkZ. We see the Rise, the LeBlanc, the Echo coming out. So often it's PerkZ who is free to push in a side lane, but now we see that issue that you brought up. Orianna, Jhin, both of them want to occupy the mid lane. They both feel safe there, and someone's going to have to take the risk and go to a side lane to clear the waves. And for now, it's been the Jhin. Ooh, not really what they wanted from that ultimate there. Engage comes in onto Jankos. That's so much in terms of shielding. Curtain call, not going to do a ton of damage. The shield stopped everything, and H2K turn it around with ease.
Yeah, good punish here from H2K. There was hesitation on the engage from G2. You saw it lingering right there. PerkZ decides to pull the trigger, misses, then the equalizer comes out, and Mithy still goes in. He gets turned upside down around, smashed by Jankos here, and really great ultimate from Odoamne. So far, H2K looking very composed, and they fend off attack number 1.
Managed to get Febiven a kill as well, exactly where they want to be. But of course, I mean, kind of surprising to see this fumble, but at the same time, you brought this up in Champions, like the support pool is so slim. What is G2 going to opt for?
Look, this is hesitation. PerkZ could have pulled the trigger already there. He would have had him. He would have nailed Febiven with that because he came out of Fog of War. The fact that he hesitates means Strick's follow-up is essentially rendered useless, and then the Shen just comes in, and that's the power of this comp. If you don't kill him immediately, you have Karma, Ivern, Shen to protect you.
Now I'm curious how this will affect PerkZ. Notoriously a player with nerves, notoriously a player with a rivalry with Febiven as well, and it cannot feel good to make mistakes like that. Hopefully he can keep a cool head as he has improved, but is now getting collapsed on by the entire H2K lineup.
Yeah. Both teams trying to make picks around this mid lane brush right here. Siege set in motion from H2K. Ooh.
Good shield from PerkZ to save the day on that one, but it's just getting harder. TP's going in. Mithy's on the backside all alone. Chei's trying to dish out damage. Febiven waiting for soldiers. Flash out, and goes to Camille. Emperor's Divide pushes her out, stops the ultimate. No ultimatum there coming in, but it will be the Varus running for his life.
Oh,
Zven goes in. He's looking to make it a party. Expect is hungry for blood. Chei's on the other side of the wall. Blast Cone comes out. 1 bullet. He's ticking down. It's going to be curtains for H2K. That's the double, looking for the triple, and he's not going to find it yet. But in the meantime, another one drops on the backside.
This was a beautiful punish from G2 because it looked so even. It looked like everybody could just kind of walk around. H2K could set up the siege, but because G2 was tracking cooldowns perfectly, they noticed Odoamne, no teleport, no stand united. They just forced the most classic, simple 5v4 by hard engaging with their support and teleporting in their top laner from out of range, and that allows Zven to clear up super well in this fight. This is a really great punish. Zven, so happy that he can do this exactly this time. Look at his build. Now has Youmuu's Edge of Night finished.
So good to see. Of course, this is the start where PerkZ gets caught out.
Yeah, and this is H2K over chasing. They do it every single game. They need to back out here, disengage. They take the greedy route to go in. Shockwave punish from PerkZ right here. And look, at any point, they should have just disengaged already, but Mithy sneaks in the back. This is really well played by Mithy. He's essentially stalling a fight for Expect to come in. Flashes out at the very last moment. It's quite unfortunate that Expect actually gets disengaged here. But even with that in mind, look how easy it is for G2 to kind of at least snowball in control. They have a very comfortable chase here. They even misplayed a heal from Zven on the Expect. Really great snipe here. On the bottom lane, Odoamne is watching his team like, guys,
I have nothing.
Did I not tell you? I have 2 globals. They're both on cooldown. Please, back off once.
H2K, I mean, we've criticized them so much. You brought it up. They like to get aggressive. They take these greedy fights, and they're being punished for it now.
And it's so hard to consistently play a league, and that's what we kind of needed to shift the mindset from. Teams will make mistakes. Like, we can't expect perfect games anymore. The thing is, how will they let them affect themselves? Will they tilt or not? And can they just then still look to punish the other team's mistakes?
I brought it up in PerkZ. Playing a lot more clean in that fight, but that fight was not about him. It was about Mithy buying time, Trick with a nearly flawless equalizer, and Zven at the end of the day, the aggressive flash, building the advantage for G2.
Another group situation here. H2K is strong in numbers.
Equalizer's up, he is going to get it down. Chei's on the backside. That's a nice combo there coming in.
But it's all on the support here. H2K is still pretty healthy, and they have Shen ultimate available for them. Again, in numbers, when H2K can decide whether they take the fight or not, they should be very strong. With the poke from Varus, the siege from Azir, and Daisy zoning in the front.
Azir, Ivern coming in as well. Such an insane siege tool when you can give him a brush to set up. But Daisy taking off the board means G2 buy themselves a bit of a reprieve.
Yeah, both teams are playing control teamfight comps with one side laner that wants to split push. It can be on the Shen respectively. But there's slightly more control coming out from H2K, I feel. And a bit more kind of shotgun from G2. They really want to go in like one combo, one shockwave, equalizer, Mithy's ultimate coming out. That's what they want to do. Whereas H2K, I think they want to take longer fights. You know, Azir ramps up so well in the late game team fights. Varus, yes, he has his ulti to CC, but it's more kite focused. Karma as well. So repetitive shields coming out. So that's the kind of the contrast. But in essence, both teams want to look for a team fight.
See, if H2K positioned perfectly, if they play patiently, it feels like they have the edge. But all it takes is everybody on the side of G2 to push those R buttons once when H2K misstep, and it could be a one team fight in their favor. Probably brought it up last week, wants to play difficult compositions, hard compositions to execute. Well, this is certainly not a forgiving composition on the side of H2K.
Yeah, we can definitely tell that they're struggling a little bit in the CS department. On the map, like the numbers don't really reflect it that well, but I feel G2 is a bit more proactive and sending their AD characters side lane to push out, whereas H2K so far has been catching the side lanes. It's obviously very hard for Nuclear in this position with no vision. Look how he's pathing back and forwards. He essentially has to wait for his support, whereas Zven just now was so confident pushing out a bit more. So it's really hard, and these are the things that are so underrated, you know, when people can read the map and know when to safely push out or not. Because now he technically would want to push out another wave right here, but he's not quite sure if he can. They have to start walking and grouping mid again here. So this is a bit of a delay on the map for H2K. They have started a slow push though.
There was a small moment of hesitation that cost G2 the previous team fight, and now it's consistent hesitation from Nuclear that's costing a bit of a CS advantage, and it means that G2, on top of everything else, they may not have the Dragon lead to Oceans for H2K, but they do have the Gold lead, 2K in their favor. It's not going to be everything 25 minutes in, but it is important. And Rift Arrow buff making it easy for Expect to go in. Has to be careful on the all-in, though.
He has more sustain out. He wants to sustain DPS as Camille scales, obviously. He wants to take down Odoamne over time.
Expect pulling away, getting the attack speed steroid and moving in onto the tower, but it looks like a collapse onto the bottom side. Jankos not going to commit anything else, and G2 are going to back off. But PerkZ and Zven, once again, buddying up in the mid lane. G2, no clear sign as to where they need to go next.
Both teams kind of just pathing around, looking for a weakness somewhere. Ooh. Somebody stepping out of bounds. That could be a great setup. Just it's a single poke on Zven there. It could be enough of a pressure point that you can then punch through.
Nice sidestep. Trying to clear the wave, it looks like, maybe hoping to catch a few members out, but it is going to stop the siege coming in from H2K, the lethal poke of Varus and Azir.
Yeah, Odoamne back to full health right now. There's almost no vision in this Baron area, and it's Ivern. Even if there is some vision, you can put that Baron in the brush.
Have to be careful, though, because once again, if you group up, if you group yourself like that, G2 can take advantage, but they've forfeited all vision control around this Baron.
But look at top wave. This is what we were talking about earlier, where Nuclear was hesitant to push out an extra wave. Well, he's still dealing with that. That wave was still stacking to this point, and that shows you kind of how important side lane control can be. Because this is a topic we visited on a minute and a half ago, and it's still in effect. And look now, somebody can just sweep top and pick up all his farms. Zven, he essentially spent maybe 25 seconds in the top lane to get 3 times the amount of farm that Nuclear did. Because he's controlling the waves, he's just picking up the big waves, and then he's being protected, and actually he's now being allowed, hopefully, to push out the next wave.
And when you're so dead even in the mid game, as we get even approach the late game at this point, 27 minutes in, those things make massive differences. This is the difference between the finished IE and the unfinished.
But Zven's not sure. He doesn't know if he can go top or not, because his team was like, do you need help mid? So you saw him path mid. The wave is gone for 30 seconds, then he can go top lane. So you can actually see what these guys are talking about. If you follow the mini-map movements, he pathed into river, watched mid lane, saw that PerkZ was fine clearing it on his own, then he can go top and fix that wave, kind of. And now it's a slow push for G2 on the top side that can eventually put pressure on the tier 2 in the top lane.
Good news for G2 is they have a lot of wave clear when they're safe to approach that wave.
He might want to try and find Nuclear as he goes for that wave right here. That's why Zven is hiding in a brush. He's essentially playing a side lane assassin on Jhin.
See if it happens.
Right, he wants to react to path to mid here, so they're using that information to then path mid. Looks like G2 wants to force a fight here with the Edge of Night channel.
Telegraphed very heavily, though, as he was spotted on ward, so H2K now backing off, knowing Varus isn't there yet. Do have global advantage. There comes the combo. Curtain call, equalizer. No one gonna fall quite yet. Nice pull in. Jankos not gonna get taken down. Redemption gonna heal him right back up. And this might be the re-engage trick now in trouble. Jankos on the front lines. He's gonna deliver Odoamne, but into the hands of no one. No, the flash taunt, the cleanse out. He is safe. Tower destroyed in the meantime.
And look what unlocks. Bot lane turret falls. And this is a play that starts in the top lane with the wave control back and forth. We need to see what evolves mid though before we touch back on that.
To hold our horses. Febiven and Nuclear ready to take this down, ready to poke out the members. There's some decently low health bars. Edge of Night up again for Sven, not popped quite yet.
And this is why League of Legends, even despite having few kills, can be very exciting because you see the implied pressure around that top lane control. Who picks up that side lane when you draft a non-1-3-1 comp? You see the hesitation on the side of Nuclear and how Sven's playing around that. His positioning was really good. He was always pushing out that wave, catching it when it was stacked up. Then he was hiding there, considering an engage with Nuclear to pick him off. But instead, he actually packed into mid, and G2 as a team, you can see that was a planned engage. Because at the Scuttle Crab, Zven was already popping Edge of Night. Like, he was ready for a fight to happen in the next kind of 10 to 12 seconds, hoping that he wouldn't get picked off on his way back. They force Odoamne to react from bottom lane to mid lane. Guess what falls open as the spoils of war? The bot lane turret.
So good to see. I mean, H2K hungry for that re-engage, but G2 pulling off. We thought maybe they'd overextend, but Trick, manages to make it out in the end, and that's just advantage to G2, and it's steadily growing. Almost 3K now in their favor.
But the games are so slow, because this was an iteration of map moves over multiple minutes. They got you maybe, what, 1,000 extra gold? Because that's because both teams are playing pretty concise and risk-averse in end as well.
It's interesting to see how this match was developed, because last summer, it would have been G2 finding the early leads to snowball, and it would have been H2K in a bit of a chokehold in the mid-game macro, but now both teams playing a bit here on even keel.
Now, we do want some action, so I wouldn't mind it if they just start flat-out fighting here. It'd be exciting too.
To be fair, probably did say he wants a series where they fight a lot. He also asked that Febiven and PerkZ don't all in each other.
Could be right here. I'm hearing Go-Go in the studio.
Sven starting the ult. Camille on the backside. That's a nice combo. Febby knocked up, but there's so much healing. Double, triple redemption coming in. I don't even know whose is whose, but Febiven is full health. Expect is hungry for a kill here. Emperor's Divine not going to happen. Expect flashes over the taunt. He wants a little bit more. Expect taking down Febiven, but it's not enough. G2 now forced to back. The health bars a bit too high from H2K. Both teams debating on the re-engage.
Absolutely brutal how Nuclear stayed alive somehow in that fight. He got so many shield and a redemption came out. Two of them actually on him, so that's the problem solved. And then the third one from Mithy came out somewhere as well. What a fight. The fact that that only resulted in a 1-for-1 is actually, I don't know if it's sad or hilarious or a mix in between.
I'm a little sad, but I feel like all the people who appreciate clean team fighting will maybe enjoy that one.
Alright, so mid lane turret fell. H2K then got the push. They're going to punish G2's base by training for an Infernal. So, in essence, this is staying so even here. I don't even know what you prefer. G2 open up the map, which means they can push in further in the mid lane. They can really use that pick potential from having Zven just open up with ulti to start a fight. But H2K, they get the scaling with that Infernal.
So good to have it, too. They only have 2 damage threats on this team. 3, if you're going to count Daisy. But always good to have the additional AD, the additional AP, especially on Azir. Already has the multiplier with attack speed. Happy to have the additional AP boost as well. Definitely something G2 could have used. They have 4 characters who would have benefited from that.
Well, look at this start. The start of this fight again here. Really good double flank here. Mithy, I think, is going to flash over the wall. So there's a lock up into the equalizer with the Camille ulti. You would expect this to be a clean teamfight victory here. Odoamne holding his ulti long enough to then save Expect. With multiple shield goes up. Febiven actually takes a long time to die here as well. And then they eventually peeled off Expect. While Daisy was 1v3, the backline zoning. It was just, yeah, it's just stupid how this composition works in terms of kiting.
It's interesting too to see the kind of the shift from Prawley. The major difference in this composition. He called the easy mode Shen Ivern scaling comp. Maybe it's a little more hard mode now that there's an Azir in there, but he was quite critical of it last week and now pulling it out here.
That's another kiting tool they have at their dispense here, H2K. Because if they can ever survive the first kind of wave of bullets from G2, if G2 do everything like the equalizer and the shockwave and H2K survive, their composition is so strong in terms of kiting. They just need to walk backwards, send out the Varus ultimate, Karma speed ups, Shen can be thrown in the mix. With Daisy, that's a super tanky front line. And then the double redemption, double shield can come out. That's exactly what H2K want to do. So that's why it's imperative for G2 to be really decisive and on the money when it comes to engaging.
cannot afford to make a mistake. I mean, once again, the shotgun shell. You get one shot. It might hit a lot of places. It might do a lot of damage.
Yeah, will you take it? Will you let it slip?
On the other side, H2K, death by 1,000 cuts, it seems, as the team fights are doomed to continue to extend. No engage coming in quite yet. But Zven, once again, alone on the top side, pushing out the wave, sees multiple members in the mid lane and knows he can push that out.
Yeah, but there's always that little pressure in the top lane. That seems to be lacking from H2K. In that sense, I think it's going to be the key contributing factor for why G2 is winning this game. Also, it is still Camille.
Tons of damage there. Saw that the taunt was burned earlier from Odo, knows that he's safe to go in for a little bit of aggro, has the lifesteal as well. I mean, there's no damage on that champion.
Yeah, it's going to be so hard for now for Odoamne to hold. You see, he got the early kill, it got equalized out, literally. And then now he is losing the late game push. He obviously has double global, but there's not enough time for H2K to force a scenario to get both Expect and Shen in there, then back out, and then use the second global again. So his double global power is essentially useless as long as Camille keeps pushing Odoamne in.
I don't think it gets any easier from here. Armor penetration maybe soon to come out, maybe more tanky stats as well, but the time of Shen dominating this matchup is soon to kind of fall away. You can already see it going in the favor of Expect. H2K now moving around the Baron pit, but G2 have absolute control of this area. I don't think they can even afford to face check into this G2 lineup.
No, they're looking to do the typical red side defense with Varus. And Karma poking over, placing wards just to get a brief momentary lapse of vision. When you place that one ward over, yes, you'll get disabled, but at least you get information for 1 or 2 seconds.
Of course, Mithy tried to body block Karma Q, did not expect the mantra, did end up aggroing the Baron and taking a decent amount of damage, but nothing major as H2K have no follow-up here quite yet.
But again, G2's macro game is still slightly better than H2K because they are continuously playing on these 3 lanes, and that's why they're getting the gold advantages. H2K is, again, more objective focused, so it's kind of continuing on the story that we've been telling about both these teams. H2K pick up 3 dragons here. They picked up the first turret. They're slightly behind right now because of the mini wave pressure that G2 is generating by farming on all these lanes all the time, because somebody will always have to deal with a big wave that Zven kind of builds. Now, Nuclear is moving more towards the top side to do exactly that, but he was not doing that in the past. He was playing much farther back. So that is good that H2K is solving that, putting the necessary vision, mostly in Tribrush.
And I mean, good to see them adapting on the fly as well. We don't expect players to shift habits or tendencies mid-game. Nuclear.
I mean, it's not a tendency that this guy doesn't like side lane farm, it's just that there wasn't the vision for him to do so. It's a team mission to send somebody on a side lane and have it pushed out. And then it obviously depends on how much risk you're willing to take. Like right now, Zven isn't too happy to push out that lane unless he sees 4 people on the map except Karma. Now he will push. Look, he was holding it. It's like, okay, do I get ganked? No, I see Azir, Varus, and Ivern mid. I don't see Karma, but I don't think Karma can 1v1 me right now, so he can push. Look how far he's pushing up.
Oh, that's a good engage, shotgun.
It's actually not the engage, it's disengage. They're holding the wave to set up for the rotation for top lane. Because that's what G2 is playing. They're playing the map, not the players. They're basically saying, I see 2 of your carries and a Shen in the bot lane. So two of your carries mid lane, Shen bot. That means I can just safety push mid lane. The only thing I need to do is make sure that I don't lose my mid lane turret.
Well, G2 are playing the map. What advantages is it gaining them? They are free to clear out the pit now. They have pressure in their lanes. And Odoamne potentially in trouble. All comes out from Expect. Wants to keep committing on this one, waiting on the equalizer from Trick, but he's overheated himself. Isn't going to be able to fire it out in the end. I think a bit of a miscommunication there.
Yeah. A little bit silence right there. In the end, Expect still gets a good trade. He does lose his ultimate, so that could be a window for H2K to potentially do something, but you see them getting pushed back all the time. They've been defending this mid lane, sharing this mid lane farm far too often.
Zven once again returning to the top side. Similar story as Nuclear makes his home there as well. Everything on the map, rinse and repeat. Expect now going in. Odoamne feeling comfortable. Here comes the rumble. There's the equalizer. Redemption coming in. It's not enough. Too little, too late.
And finally, H2K cracked. They've been holding on this defense for so long, but it's always been G2 that have been in control right now, and now they're put into an impossible bind right now. If G2 play this slow, H2K will have to choose between defending Baron or their inhib, or potentially losing both.
Patience, wave pressure, all falling in the favor of G2. The Camille now, in theory, uncontestable. Left alone on this inhibitor tower. H2K, what are you doing?
Yeah, H2K, they're deciding right now. They're trying to find out, can we hold this Camille? No, we're just going to give up inhib. And then G2 is like, well, we're not going to start Baron that badly, or at least put it that low. They're just doing this as a bait. They're just saying, okay, we're starting in, ha, psych. Oh, okay, maybe we are. Or maybe we're not. And now the inhib's done. And Odoamne is still dead for 15 seconds.
not at all where H2K wanted to be, and this is the first major advantage for G2, and it's not only the inhibitor that's fallen, it's now the 8K gold lead that has been built for G2 as well.
Yeah, and the second that falls, they rotate back mid to hold, and this is H2K's reaction. It's a delayed reaction. They probably just want to start this Nashor.
But if they group in the pit, the equalizer, everything is up and available for G2.
But they have to do something at this point, or they're just going to lose, because Expect will just do the same thing again.
Mithy caught out, the chain CC comes in. Can they turn the fight? They get the pick that they need. That could be massive for H2K.
Yeah, good patience for H2K there. They forced all the boot trinkets to be used, but they only get a pick on the support.
Oh, PerkZ is going in. Flash comes out. Curtain call. Don't think it's going to make too much of a difference in the end. Zven throwing shots wide. Expect a bit aggressive on the front line. No ultimates. Doesn't want to go into that funnel. Azir does a ton of damage with the triple soldiers.
G2 right now, they just need to get a map reset. If they can get one single map reset, they can set up the exact same thing and take another inhib somewhere, or start sieging Nashor's turrets. Expect kind of teasing.
Locked up by the root caller. Daisy's out as well. Traps there to back up the retreat for G2. Not looking to pick a fight without every round in the clip. Now pulling back, small advantage over to H2K will mitigate some of the gold difference there, but it's nothing major yet. Elder is on the table, Baron is on the table.
But you always pay a price for every play. That bait for H2K meant that they weren't playing their side lanes at all. Now Expect rotate stop. He still has teleport, he wants to do it safely. Look at the bottom wave. Odoamne has to deal with a very juicy wave full with super creeps right now. So this is where G2 ideally want to punish him for that.
Has the Titanic, will be able to clear this wave out. This damage item's at least giving him something to combat these super creeps, but it may not be enough. Camille on the top side now, and who will answer if not Shen?
Yeah, and the trade is always just vision at this point when you look at a solid teamwork here. Like, nothing is being traded in terms of picks and objectives here, but H2K, they defend the lane in the bottom, well, they trade vision around Baron for it. Now G2 need to put that plan again in motion, and then they will trade maybe a Baron attempt for it, or a bait. And then essentially you keep doing these map moves until you force H2K into a loser situation.
And right now they are in a losing situation because they may not give up the Baron, but they'll give up the Elder Dragon. Now it's only 45 extra damage for G2. Not nearly as massive as it would be for H2K, but it's one less thing for G2 to worry about. And they gave up their wave pressure, but getting this in exchange is huge for them.
Yeah, it's huge because they deny it mostly from H2K, and you can see it, Febiven's kind of scratching his head. It's like, guys, what do we do? At this point, it's very hard if you're H2K. You essentially need to wait for a greedy Baron from G2. But you can't wait too long, because they may just be burning it down.
Gold difference over time quickly ramping in the favor of G2. A few moments, a very even game up until the 20-minute mark, but G2, between the side wave control, between the small advantages, finally managed to build something bigger for themselves.
Yeah, and now we put the Camille back into the bot lane, obviously, because they lost. Failed pick attempt here from PerkZ. This could be a window for H2K to punish.
Zven getting aggressive.
Oh, Zven's
actually on the side. It's not where you want to be. Doesn't make it out in the end. Tricks in the jungle. Are they going to try to go for this? They do not have the shockwave.
Ooh, if G2 can stall, it's going to get real ugly for H2K real fast. Because if Camille with the red buff gets to that bottom lane that's already stacked, it is probably going to prompt a rash decision from H2K. And we're looking at the amount of control that G2 have. It doesn't look like it's going to end well.
H2K feel confident for now. They feel like they're on the front foot, but they may not feel that way for long because Camille is wrapping around. It won't be the bot lane push. It may be the catch on the trick. He's going to pull back. Camille hesitating in the mid lane. G2 are just going to run it up mid. Yeah,
they're going to run mid right now because they know H2K don't have enough time to get the Baron and base right now. They just want to force this H2K lineup back into the base to defend, and then they're going to curve around to the Nashor again.
Camille now on the bottom side. Red buff as well means that turret is going to drop ever quicker. Expect just looking for the solo play here. Odoamne does not have the tools to fight him, and now it's only one tower standing in the way. G2 immediately on the Baron. H2K are on the back foot, and they have to make a decision, and they have to make it fast.
G2 need to walk away. It's actually quite dangerous to finish this. This could be the 50-50 that Jankos is looking to steal. So G2, essentially, they want to stall for this Camille, because look, Expect teleporter to the top lane. They're playing the game of siege and turrets. This was all just a bait, this Baron buff.
And Odoamne has all the mobility in the world, can be anywhere on the map, but the only place he can realistically
now they might go,
stand.
because Camille is looking for the flank, but they're so hesitant because Odoamne still has ulti.
Moving forward, Mithy on the front lines, ready for the engage. Ball attached, delivery system online. Febiven now in trouble. Redemption's coming out. That's the shotgun. Connecting a little bit, but it may not be enough. Expect on the front lines. Chei is the one in trouble, and Odo doing his best to peel. Moving forward, one member down for H2K. Chei could be next on the menu. Double kill for Expect. Oh, that's a good shockwave. Pulls him back, knocks him down. G2, clean house.
Absolutely dirty, calculated, clean. Ace 5 for Zven after just moving around the pieces on the map. G2 were playing chess, H2K were playing checkers.
G2, a beautiful game of League of Legends. Dead even for 20 minutes, but now at the 43-minute mark, it's a 10K lead in their favor, and it's guaranteed to be the game. They get everything they want, and they execute beautifully.
And they must be so happy with it, because this is exactly the style they were willing to play, and they do it against a struggling H2K.
H2K dropping down in game one, taking the